Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. In my series Freemasonry and Satanism, number 70, part 5. A continuation to a very interesting book. Secret Societies and Subversive Movements by Nestor H. Webster. Picture Adam Wusthof here. The founder and creator of the Illuminati. So many people don't want to believe in Illuminati, or the evil goings on in Freemasonic lodges, Rosicrucian, and other secret mystery schools of Babylon. The home to the pagan religions, many gods, pharaohs. The place where they have the pyramids, the Sphinx, and all the other monuments about ancient history. So this book was first published in 1924. I'm barely touching the surface by some of my reading, and of course adding my commentary from my previous readings and education. So it's, my thinking, my rationalization. And as I always say, don't believe things I say. Get the books yourself. Read them. Use your own God-given brain. And the world is probably in the mess it is today because people are not using their brains. The chapter I'm going to do now, this is going to be a lengthy chapter. Maybe break it down into 2 videos. Pan-Germanism. What does that mean? I used to always wonder, what is Pan-Germanism? Until I learned about the new word, pansexual. We know about bisexual, going both ways. We know about homosexual, men with men, women with women. We know about adultery. We even know about swingers groups and orgies. And pedophilia, that seems to be very popular among the Satanists and evildoers of today, the Hollywood crowd and many others. TV, sports figures getting arrested, teachers, other people messing around with children. And according to Aleister Crowley and the satanic organizations, sex with the children, killing the children, drinking the blood, eating the flesh, burning them, burying them, torturing them, unbelievably horrible tortures to bring out the fear and the horror. I guess it changes some kind of hormone in the body, creating some kind of magical, satanic, euphoric activity when they drink the blood of somebody who's been in a horrified state. Anyways, it's all bizarre to me too, if it's bizarre to you, but apparently it's true. Apparently history is full of this stuff. Pan-Germanism, so if we heard about pansexual, that new term I learned, which means having sex with anybody, anything, pansexual. Like bisexual is 2, and going both ways, men or women. So Pan-Germanism means maybe Germany wanting to build an empire, imperialism. But then again, when you talk about the German people, are you talking about the people in charge, the royal families, the princes, the dukes, the elitists, wealthy, castle owners, residents? This is the way it was for thousands of years throughout the world in humanity. And in a more civilized world, so we think now, it's supposed to be representative government, like a constitution, Bill of Rights, and equality and justice for all. But as we know, we think we're free, but we're not. Behind the scenes, they're crashing the economy. They do all kinds of things raising the prices of gas from $4 to $2, from 4 to 2, from 4 to 2. Think of the sucking effect that has to have on the economic money of all the peoples when they raise it to 4. They double the price of gas from California to North Carolina, Michigan to Florida and Texas. Taking in 20 billion, now it's 40 billion. And after they get enough money and the American citizens, and probably the world, are suffering enough pain, lower it back to $2. Give everybody a breather. Make people start to feel a little relaxed. You need gas to go to work. You need heating oil. Gas is what it costs to make food. Transportation, shipping stuff. So it affects the whole general economy. And apparently, we think we're free, but they're controlling everything and taking us for a psychological high ride, low ride, and bringing us this fear-mongering and craziness in the news on a regular basis. And they're in charge of the media, they're in charge of the TV, the news, and everything else. The school systems teaching our children, the people in colleges, and adult education. Doesn't seem to end, does it? See, the problem is, as I just said, with this world, is the working people are not thinking and learning how to take charge of their own lives in reality. Electing officials, nominating a friend, somebody you know in the community, supporting them. We're leaving it to other people. So Pan-Germanism, what's it all about? We have seen in the course of this book, and I've only touched the surface, that the idea of a secret power working for world revolution through both open movements and secret societies is not a new one, but dates from the 18th century. And I know I'm not speaking to morons out there, but the 18th century would have been 17,000 to 1799. So what would seem to be something you should be calling 17th century is actually called the 18th century, 1701 to 1799. So then from 1801 to 1899 would have been the 19th century. I'm not trying to talk down anybody, but just like the things that maybe I was a little stupid at. I assume other people may not get the dates properly also. For example, 2015, here in the United States, and I suspect over in Europe and lots of the world, that's the calendar date. That's 2015 years ago since Jesus was born. So we can say largely, a large portion of the world is a Christian world. No matter what they want to preach to us and try to use propaganda and deceive us, and you can go talk to a lot of people, if you're going out to dinner tonight or to your friends at a party, they will probably agree if you just off the cuff say, you know, Jesus was just a myth. How many people will stand up and say, no, you're wrong? The calendar's not a myth. It's 2015. All the things that happen in history are not myths. The Roman Empire collapsing, dispersing all the Jews from Palestine all over the world, where they have been dispersed for 2,000 years. That's in all the books. It's common knowledge. Why were they dispersed? And everywhere they went, after a period of time, they wore out their welcome when we were run out of town. Barred, banned, persecuted, prosecuted, fined, had to wear special badges and hats to identify themselves. Why? So we have seen in the course of this book that the idea of a secret power working for world revolution, that's a lie, it's world domination, through both open movements and secret societies is not a new one, but dates from the 18th century. So from about 1700. And I'm confident in even earlier than that. In order to appreciate the continuity of this idea, let us recapitulate the testimonies of contemporaries, some of which have been already quoted in their context, but which, when collected together and placed in chronological order, make up a very remarkable chain of evidence. And also, from this being my 70th series, and I've also been doing on series 71, the Henry Ford, Dearborn newspaper excerpts, and I'm going to be doing 72 next. Hundreds of hours of documents, reviews I've been doing, book reviews and pictures and everything. Hundreds of hours. And well over 100 books, because some of those videos entailed more than one book we looked at. So that's a remarkable, as it says in this book here, a very remarkable chain of evidence. That's the way I planned this whole series, was a remarkable chain of evidence, like a court case. If we look at my video, starting with the first one of the Freemasonic Bible, with the pictures of King Solomon's temple, up to 60 series later, the one I did on the Blue Lodge, which was the Blue Lodge Handbook of the Freemasonic Lodge. I did 12 two-hour videos, as if you were actually in the lodge going through the ritual yourself. Blindfolded, dagger pointed towards your chest, noose around your neck, half naked, on your knee, one hand on a Bible, swearing to keep everything secret under threat of death. Strange. And from remote viewing, I went over text Mars material, psychic research material. So my series of videos, if this were a court case and somebody the jury had to go into the back room and make a decision, not guilty or guilty, that there are some secret societies and forces out there causing havoc and mayhem on we the people, since it says here, the 18th century. I think it's pretty clear we would get a guilty charge. So if they're guilty, the people running our world and our countries, and fleecing and stealing from the people, murdering the people, what should be done with these people who are in charge of our world? And if we don't do anything, we know they're going to, as their Georgia USA Guidestones say, reduce the population by 80-85%. Kill billions. So let's go on with these quotes in this book on pan-Germanism. In 1789, the Marquis de Lafayette warned France of the danger of the Illuminati. 1789. Danger of the Illuminati, whose object was world domination. 1789. Get it? Got it? This book, page 350. In consequences to this gigantic project, de Lafayette foresees a series of calamities of which the end is lost in the darkness of time. Like unto those subterranean fires, of which the insatiable activity devours the bowels of the earth, which escape into the air by violent and devastating explosions. That was 1789. So he was warning of world domination by this group called the Illuminati, which would be the secret mystery school of Babylon, which has a deity, Isis, Lucifer, Satan, many names. In 1794, the Duke of Brunswick, in his manifesto to the German lodges, said, a great sect arose, a great cult, a great secret group of people. A great sect arose, which taking for its motto, the good and happiness of man. So they took their motto, the good and happiness of man, worked in the darkness of the conspiracy to make the happiness of humanity a prey for itself. So like wolves, these people were preying on humanity in their darkest and secret conspiracies. The sect is known to everyone. Its brothers are known to no less than its name. The plan they had formed for breaking all social ties and of destroying all order was revealed in their speeches and acts. Indomitable pride, thirst of power, such were the only motives of this sect. Their masters had nothing less in view than the thrones of the earth. Lest we forget George Bush Sr. and many others, all of them, from Brown in England to Clinton, Obama, have been saying New World Order. George Bush Jr. come from the Skull and Bones, so did his father and his father's father, John Kerry, Skull and Bones. Lodge called Skull and Bones. Does that sound nice and attractive? Skull and Bones. And the government of the nations was to be directed by their nocturnal clubs. In 1797, Montjoie, writing for the Orleanist conspiracy, sounds like something in French, to which in an earlier work he had attributed the whole organization of the French Revolution in its first stages, observed, "I will not examine whether this wicked prince, thinking he was acting in his personal interest, was not moved by that invisible hand, which seems to have created all the events of our revolution in order to lead us towards a goal that we do not see at present, but which I think we shall see before long." The New World Order. This was in 1987, just before 1800. So 215 years ago. Continuing on. Got a nice fall color day here behind me in the mountains of North Carolina. Alright, so we're seeing all these quotes from long ago. In 1801, Monsignor de Sévigné made allusions in prudent and almost terrifying terms to some international sect, like a cult, a power superior to all others, which has arms and eyes everywhere, and which governs Europe today. And these same people have eyes here in the United States, and they're taking it all high-tech. Let's all agree on that. They have more power now than they ever had, and look what they have done in the past. And apparently they get their jollies out of causing horrific events in the world. It's like a cat playing with a mouse, or a wolf preying on a sheep, getting ready to lunge and viciously tear it apart. These people seem to get enjoyment by that. They don't think like the rest of us, and they count on that. They bet on that. That's why they think the Christians are fools. The wolves are around the corner, ready to lunge, ready to destroy us. And they are destroying people, while we other people, like sheeple, we're watching what they do over in the Middle East and Ukraine and other parts of the world. Destroying, robbing, murdering. And what do? Most of us, nothing. Just saying. They count on that. In 1817, the Chevalier de Mallet declared that the authors of the revolution are not more French than German, Italian, and English. They form a particular nation which took birth and has increased in the dark amidst all civilized nations, with the object of subjecting them to its domination. We could throw one name at them, that would be the Zionist Jewish folks. And so it's not all Jewish folks. And a lot of people, kings and queens, and people in powerful places are in cahoots with them. I've read enough books, even during the Crusades, 1000 AD to 1300. the Vatican, all the kings and queens, before they went on their 8 crusades in those 300 years, it was people of Jewish nationality, race, or religion, whatever you want to call them, of Venetians from Venice, who were the people who were the tax collectors and the one who helped finance the crusades and collect all the materials and worked for the kings and queens and the Vatican and all that. So these particular people, not all Jews, were predominantly Jewish, who did these things for these people in high places. And they have been working together ever since. So when you're talking about Jews are the evil forces, you have to say that the kings and queens and Vatican and other people in high places, banksters, have been feeding off the Jews, and the Jews have been feeding off of them. Those two forces have been working against us. The powerful people all over the world don't want to lose their powerful positions. And like corporations today, most of the CEOs are Jewish. They know that these Jewish people will do things that Christian people and other normal, decent people will not do. And those are some harsh words. But this information is in books. It's in this book. It's in all the books I've gone over. It's in their books on how they want to do things. In their Talmud, their Bible. The best of the goyim shall be killed. And much more horrific things we read in those books. The Freemasonic Lodges talks about King Solomon's temple. Restoring it. It's all behind the scenes, a Jewish organization. Everything in the Blue Lodge Handbook. What did I do? 12 2-hour videos, reading from cover to cover, a Blue Lodge Handbook, and many others. So it says here they have arms and eyes everywhere, and which governs Europe today. We know that the Rothschilds made secret agreements with Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, over Christmas vacation, to create the private enterprise, the Federal Reserve in 1913. Think about it for a minute. What would you do if somebody handed you a checkbook and said, don't worry about it. You're never going to run out of money. Just write with checks for whatever you want. And let's say you aspired to take over the world. You could write checks whatever you want. You could pay people money, buy bombs, buy weapons, have presidents assassinated. I can't even think of so much you could do. If you were just handed a checkbook and right away you're going to control the world. It's like a magic genie in a bottle. Well, pretty much when the Jewish Rothschilds created the Federal Reserve in the United States, they can write all the checks, print all the money, do whatever they want. They're not subject to being audited. Think about it. And they do want to take over the world, and they have been writing checks, and they have been creating wars, and they have been destroying us. They've crashed the U.S. system with the depressions and bubbles and stuff like that at least 8 times since 1913. And buying up farms and homes and industrial plants and properties for pennies on the dollar. And they've been doing this all over the world. If you want a simple explanation, there it is. So, he says the authors of the revolution, and I call it world domination. When they say revolution, and they want to rile up the people to overthrow their current leaders, they call it a revolution. These instigators, these people who control the banks, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Morgans, Chases, Bolsheviks, Zionists, Jesuits, they control the Vatican. The Jesuits are the assassin arm of the Vatican, and the leader of the Jesuits is called the Black Pope, and we know the current Pope is a Jesuit, so apparently they have put the Black Pope in charge of the Vatican right now. For what reason? Do they plan on having a huge battle and they need a Black Pope? So they're not particularly German or Italian. They form a particular nation which took birth and has increased in the dark amidst all civilized nations with the object of subjecting them to all its domination. Oh my. In 1835, Carbano Malagure, I'm saying these names wrong, of course, who wrote to another member of the Carboni, "We form an association of brothers in all points of the globe. We have desires and interests in common. We aim at the emancipation of humanity." The emancipation of humanity. What they want to do is free everybody from the Ten Commandments, from being good and decent. That's what they call emancipation. Make no doubts about it. When they talk about liberty and justice and freedom, they're talking about liberty and justice and freedom for Satan. Liberty for Satan. Justice for Satan, to pay back God and humanity for being suppressed. And freedom for Satan to practice his way of ruling the world, satanic, demonically. You got to pay attention to words. So they want to, we aim at the emancipation of humanity. We wish to break every kind of yoke. Do you hear me? Page 351. We wish to break every kind of yoke. They think the Ten Commandments and believing in Jesus and Christianity is a yoke. Yet there is one that is unseen, that can hardly be felt, yet that weighs on us. Whence it comes, where is it? No one knows, or at least no one tells. The association is secret, even to us, the veterans of secret societies. So even to the veterans of secret societies, this unknown hand is unknown to them. In 1852, Disraeli wrote, "It was neither parliaments nor populations, nor the course of nature, nor the course of events, that overthrew the thrones of Louis Philippe. The throne was surprised by the secret societies, ever prepared to ravage Europe." The throne of Louis Philippe was surprised by the secret societies, ever prepared to ravage Europe. 1852. What does it take for people to wake up now that these secret societies are getting ready and have been ravaging the earth? But what they're really planning is beyond belief. The Georgia USA Guidestones tells us they want 500 million people on earth. 6 billion have to die. They can't manage 6 billion. They don't want to feed 6 billion. That's the only reason. There's no sustainability problem, global warming problem, global cooling problem, climate change problem, terrorism problem. They are the terrorists. Ebola problem. They created the Ebola. Shootings, gun shootings. They're creating all that so they can disarm the people, so they can ravage the earth, as it says here on page 351, written in 1852. Acting in unison with a great popular movement that they may destroy society. So they're creating this new age, this new world order thinking, where people dislike Jesus and Christianity, so they may destroy society. It says it here in this book on page 352, and in the other books I've read, as they did at the end of the last century. So these people are revolutionarists, and that's an incorrect term. They like to destroy society so that they can take control and do as they wilt, as Aleister Crowley, the evilest man alive, says, who promoted the law of one, do whatever you want. Rule number 2, refer to law number 1, do whatever you want. Moving on, page 352. Now we have to ask ourselves whether there is anything but an identity of doctrines and personal communications between the members of the different sects, whether there is really a unity of direction that binds together all the secret societies, including Freemasonry. Remember, my series is Freemasonry and Satanism. Here we touch on the most mysterious point of the action of secret societies, on that which these national Grand Orients, who declare themselves independent of each other, and sometimes even excommunicate each other, conceal most carefully beneath a veil. Finally, Deschamps is led to the conclusion that there is a secret council which directs all Masonic societies, that there are secret lairs, caves and underground lodges and secret castles and sites. There are secret lairs where the chiefs of the sects agree together on their work of destruction. Oh my. Alright, it would be easy to multiply quotations of this kind taken from many different sources. So we heard those quotations from those famous people. And Nestor Webster says, it would be easy to multiply quotations of this kind taken from many different sources. Whether the men who expressed these opinions were, as we are frequently told, suffering from delusions or not, the fact remains that the idea of a hidden hand, and we've seen pictures of a hidden hand in my videos. Go on YouTube or Yahoo search or Google search and put hidden hand, and you will see famous people throughout the ages. It's like this, with one hand hidden like this. The hidden hand while they're doing some speaking engagement. I think Obama has a hidden hand one. They all do. They know. The hidden hand behind world revolution. Again, change the word from revolution to world domination, world destruction, has existed for at least 135 years. So, and when we compare these utterances with Monsieur Copeland Albercelli's description of an inner circle secretly directing the activities of the Grand Orient, and with the conclusions reached by members of other secret societies, with such a circle exists behind all occult and Masonic society of a subversive kind, we are necessarily led to inquire, is there one circle, or rather one power behind both open and secret organizations working for the overthrow of the existing social order and Christian civilization? If so, what is that power? Now, to leave speculation for a moment and come to known facts, everyone who has seriously studied these matters is aware that there are at present moment 5 principal organized movements at work in the world with which ordered government has to contend. They control ordered government. People are weak-minded, weak-willed, and let these people buy them and pay them off, not realizing that they have a soul, and they're going to have to answer for their behavior. But the 5 principal organized movements at work in the world, which ordered government has to contend. Number 1, the Grand Orient Freemasonry. They got lodges on every corner in every city across the world. Mexico, Haiti, Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, everywhere. You've seen them. Theosophy, with its innumerable ramifications. Helena Blavatsky, she went to the India and studied their ancient secret religions. Shiva, Kali, demonic ancient beings. It's called New Age. She brought it back, started spreading it around. People started embracing it, running power through their shakas, looking at their auras, thinking that they're going to be gods themselves, not wanting to believe in the religion they grew up with, Christianity or whatever. The New Age. Do as thou wilt, like Aleister Crowley, the one who bragged about killing children, sex with children, and more evil things they do. The Church of Satan and all these Illuminati evil groups abduct people 8 times a year for human sacrifices. Theosophy. So you got the Grand Orient Freemasonry and Theosophy. I'm probably saying it wrong. Then nationalism of an aggressive kind, now represented by pan-Germanism. So think about it. The way Hitler, who was controlled and financed by the Rothschilds and the banksters, the evil people, the book by the Pools, Who Financed Hitler, plus many others, tells us that, was into serious nationalism. Well, isn't Israel nationalism? And you can't move to Israel unless you're Jewish. And if you're not Jewish and you live there, you're going to be tormented. So meanwhile, through the United Nations that they control, they want the rest of us to be one-worlders, not to be nationalists or patriotic. Very serious about that. You're a threat to your state or country if you're patriotic. If you want to possess a gun, they'll call you a terrorist. If you want to speak the truth, they'll call you a belligerent, anti-government belligerent. You want to rise up and get food and water for your family, you'll be an insurgent. If you do all these things, you probably find a red dot on your mailbox. When they do the revolution, world domination, remember? And they do that. Every time they have a revolution, they have something called a purge. They go get all the thinkers out there, and they kill them immediately because the thinkers can talk to the people. Just like the serious Jewish regime, the Zionists, don't want Christians talking to the other Jewish people, poor people, children, because they don't want us telling them the truth. This is in the books and material I've recently gone over. Then you got international finance, number 4, and then social revolution, which is what they create a distressing and difficult world, so people get stressed out and angry, and then they say, if you go destroy the people in charge, we'll set you free and you'll get something. They're lying. It never works out that way. Tell that to the Egyptians right now, 2015. Tell that to the Iraqis. Tell that to the Afghanistan. Tell that to Syria. Tell that to Tunisia. Tell that to the Ukraine. Days after ousting their president, 35 tons of gold was shipped out in the middle of the night to New York. Look it up on the internet, don't believe me. We've gone over it in previous videos. Funny how in look back here. When was this book published? 24. Mr. Webster was right on. We can see, it's easy to look from hindsight now. 2015 and see. This is after World War I, prior to World War II. Moving on, page 353. And I'm not reading everything as usual, I highlighted stuff. I discovered that there were independent investigators who had arrived at precisely the same conclusion as myself, says Nestor Webster. And I gotta tell you, after doing these 100 books that I've reviewed so far, and more, thousands of pictures, thousands of press releases, hundreds of magazines, thousands of videos, I'm beginning to see which books are trying to tell us the truth and which books are deceiving us. I've got some future books to review that are clearly meant to deceive us. Written by the arch enemies of mankind. These people Nestor is describing in this book. the evil Zionist Jewish folks who think that they're God's chosen people and want a world order. And the secret mystery schools, fraternal members, which constitute a lot of the high echelon people in society who are in cahoots with these Zionist Jewish people. They feed off of each other, like I said. And they have for thousands of years. If you were a king or a queen in England or Germany, and you weren't collecting enough taxes, and you couldn't force your own citizens to go beat up all the other citizens, and you scratch your head and you go, how am I going to get me some money here? Ah, those Jewish people are great tax collectors. Oh, I'm going to go to war. Who is going to go ahead and help me get all the military swords and weapons and organize everything? Ah, those Jewish people are really good at that. Just saying. That's the way it seems like when I read this stuff. And not all Jewish people, of course. And many Christian people and other people that call themselves Christians or other nationalities who act as mercenaries and who would be murderers and robbers for money anyways work for these people. Like we see over there in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and all throughout the Middle East right now, called Al-Qaeda and ISIS, created by the CIA, NATO, and the Pentagon, and Israel, who had a large hand in 9/11. Israelis, Mossad people were caught in vans with apparently explosives in New York that day and let loose and went home to Israel and bragged on TV what they had done. Some were arrested on top of a building in New Jersey videoing the event. Said they wanted to record it. Celebrating, dancing up and down. Shocked one lady, she called the police. What are we to think? The problem that now confronts us is therefore this. If there is indeed one power directing all subversive movements, is it one of the 5 movements here enumerated? Is it one of these 5 I just said? The Grand Orient Freemasonry, Theosophy, New Age, nationalism of the aggressive kind, international finance, and social revolution. The people who want to tell everybody to be liberal, be gay, do whatever you want. Destroy Christianity, hate Christians, hate Jesus. It's all mind control propaganda, and they're skillful at it. They've been studying psychology and mind control and torture. And now if you go watch the TV programming, you'll see like on the NBC News or ABC or all this stuff, and they'll do that round thing. If you know anything about hypnotism, it works like this. They count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then they count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 8, 7, 6. Count down, count up. Count down, count up. It's hypnotizing. So when you're watching, even Texas Rangers, they run up there with that 5-pointed star, and I've been seeing an I and an S on that star, and I know it's a satanic symbol, but they're doing it on all kinds of programs, NFL, in and out. They're mesmerizing you, me, everybody. They're high-tech on their mind control. They got the media, the TV, the news, sounds, radio, even invisible frequencies. They have more power now than they've ever had. And they're just as evil, if not even more evil. Look at the pedophilia issues that are coming out. And the stuff we see, blatant sexual propaganda. There was one press release. It showed 2 girls on a bed with 2 babies saying that gay women spend more time with their children. According to a psychologist's investigation. Do you really believe that? It's propaganda. They're pulling people in. They're mesmerizing. And people are walking away from the TV or reading that press release, believing it. It's hard to fathom. Another power more potent and more invisible. In order to discover this, is it necessary to discover whether These movements, although apparently divergent in their ultimate purpose, have nevertheless any ideas or any aims in common. 1924. One fundamental point of similarity will certainly be found between them. All desire to dominate the world and to direct it along lines and according to rules of their own devising. More than this, each desires to direct it solely for the benefit of one class of people, social, intellectual, or national, as the case may be, to the entire exclusion of every human being outside that class. Sounds like Professor Higgins' book we went over, the ultimate reality, whatever that was. I'll think of the name. Thus, in reality, each aspires to the dictatorship of the world. Besides this, it will be noticed that not only these principal movements, but also the minor subversive movements described in the last chapter, have in the main a pro-German tendency. None, at any rate, are pro-French, nor do they encourage British patriotism. All contain a Jewish element. None, at least, are anti-Semitic. So these movements none of them are anti-Semitic. It's because the Jewish people are behind them, the evil Jewish people. Talmud types, Zionist types, Kabbalah types, magic types. The ones who control the good Jewish people who want to expose this or be free, they won't let them. Said, how does that would make me anti-Semite if I knew that and I'm exposing that even the good Jews are persecuted by these bad Jews? Good British people are persecuted by these fraternal Masonic Lodge British citizens who are not Jewish in America. And a lot of the Masonic lodges, the lower members, don't know what's really going on, but they have sworn on a Bible with a dagger pointed to their chests, and the threat of death, not to expose any secrets and to obey their master. All have more or less decided an antagonism to Christianity. That's the common denominator to all of this. And what did that one Jewish person say in Henry Ford's book I was reading? Christianity is the opposite of our religion. And in the Bible, Jesus says that Satanism is the opposite and the enemy of God. So we're starting to put this together, what we are dealing with. If then there is a single power behind them, it is the pan-Germanic power. So the people in powerful places, kings and queens or monarchy leaders in Germany, who in cahoots with these Jewish people, are the problem. So it might appear to be German leadership, but it's not the citizens. And in the Jewish community, it's not all the Jewish people, it's the hierarchy people. And they make things difficult for the rest of the Jewish people, so they have no place else to go but to the Jewish community for security, jobs, and money. It's a devious, insidious program afoot for world domination. It is the Jewish power. Or is it the anti-Christian power? I think that's one and the same there. Let us examine each of these possibilities in turn. Viewed under the aspect of exaggerated nationalism, the spirit of pan-Germanism is nothing new. The dream of world domination has haunted the imagination of many races from the time of Alexander the Great to Napoleon I. But nowhere has the plan been carried out by the Machiavellian methods which have characterized Prussia, foreign policy, all that area around Germany, and diplomacy from the days of Frederick the Great onwards. It is not Prussian militarism that constitutes the crime of modern Germany. Militarism in the sense of courage, patriotism, and discipline, and a devotion of duty is a splendid thing. But the spirit of pan-Germanism differs from the British conception of patriotism, in that it overrides the rights of all other peoples and seeks to establish its dominion over the whole world. Under German domination, every German would be free and every other human being a slave. And this is the problem they're having in the United States. To having the United States rule the world controlled by these Jewish people. As Prime Minister Sharon said, don't worry about America. He was arguing in his Congress about something. He says, we control America. But see, you can't get Christian people in America to go around along with dominating the world and be ruthless murderers and killers. That's the problem these people have had throughout history. Even in England. They couldn't get the English regular soldier to be so angry and vicious and murder Germans. While in Germany, the leadership couldn't get the regular German soldier to be vicious and angry and want to go murder Britons. This has been their problem all along. And what creates that? Jesus, Christianity, and other decent people and religions throughout the world, who preached the first commandment on the second tablet, thou shalt not kill. You see the problem for them? For dominating the world? They have a hard time finding henchmen to do it. Hence they're doing this eugenics and cloning and all that, and recreating DNA to try to create some master race of people who will do this, who will be murderers and killers and evil. Crazy stuff. But it might behoove us to wake up and see how much of this is true. We can see in reality what's going on. Why are they building those HAARP microwave transmitters all over the planet? Like in a pattern like this. Alaska, Puerto Rico, Norway, India, Russia, Japan. You see what I'm saying? Like a strategic area that each one can cover. Transmitting microwave energy all over the world. And you know, these frequencies, they've learned how to control people, mind control people, kill people, change the whole community's psychology from being a normal person walking down the street to getting angry and maybe even enraged, lethargic, furious, riotous. They control this. This is how holistic healing and stuff works. It's all frequencies. Some frequencies make you feel elated, and some frequencies make you feel depressed. They have that science now. And they're building these microwave transmitters. One might say, well, geez, that's kind of concerning if they knew about this stuff. But you got to be a researcher to go find out about this stuff, like Project Bluebeam, where they want to have big holographic images in the sky and fake an alien invasion, or fake an Antichrist second coming. Or the Samson option, where Israel has 300 nukes and has threatened to release them all if they're stopped from what they're doing or anybody tries to stop them or invade them. They're going to take out every city in Europe and as far as they can, and the world will go down in blazes with them. This is what we're dealing with. And I could go on and name more. Project Paperclip, Project Montauk, MK Ultra, the USA ship Liberty, 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing, all the shootings with the crisis actors, the relentless pursuit in the media to disarm America, all the other lies, the fake that we owe $18 trillion. They did not spend $18 trillion on us USA citizens. They spent it on their world domination program. They control the Federal Reserve. They control our politicians. Everybody knows this. So moving on, and then take a break and finish this video tomorrow. Here it says here, the preference of the native of India for an English judge to one of its own race is evidence of this fact. but it is further the abandonment of all principles, the acceptance of the doctrine that everything is allowable. Lying, treachery, coulmery, and bad faith. So these people who rule our country, here in the U.S. and in Europe and the world, lying, treachery, coulmery, and bad faith, in order to achieve its end. That's why they do all these crisis actors and 911 and all these other things. That has placed Germany, this is 1924, doing the same program today because it works, has placed Germany outside the Committee of Nations. Robinson describes the system of the Illuminati as leading to the conclusion that nothing would be scrupled at if it could be made appear that the order would derive advantage from it. 911 come to mind? Nothing would be scrupled at if the order could get advantage from it for their plans for world domination, because the great object of the order was held as superior to every consideration. Change the world order to state, the word order to state order, and one has the whole principle of modern German imperialism. And when I say German imperialism, it's these people that run that country at high places, own the industries, not the working population. Same thing in the world today in 2015, all over the world. They create these unemployment situations and all these other stressful situations so that the population will react. And the population will react by fighting each other, not the people who created the situation and want world domination and a population reduction. Those are some harsh words, but they appear to be very true. Now, it is interesting to notice that the founders of German Illuminism and of German imperialism drew certain at their ideas from the same source. There you go. So the book by the Pools, Who Financed Hitler, which was the banks of Rothschilds and all the other chases from New York and Morgans, is absolutely true. You can't blame the German people. No more than you can blame the American people today for being too stupid to know who the culprits are who are destroying their world, taking away their properties, their homes, their farms, their futures, their children's futures, and trying to convince them that Jesus and Christianity is bad, but Luciferianism and New Age and homosexuality is good. You would think for most people that would not be a hard decision to figure out, the difference between good and bad. But they do say in end times, up will be down, left will be right, right will be wrong, wrong will be right, and 2 plus 2 will be 5, not 4. Might be 22, but not 5 or 4. Both Wüsthof, who was under the control of the Rothschilds, by the way, and Frederick the Great were earnest students of Machiavellian. So I guess I ought to study and learn more about Machiavellian. Prussia for supremacy, and at the same time, through each outbreak of world revolution, domination, in which Prussia influenced has played a part. So whenever they say revolution from now on, I think I'm just going to go ahead and say world domination. I wonder if people in the streets would riot up and break store windows if they use the word world domination instead of revolution. Have to get the word out there and educate people. Continuing on, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. Nestor H. Webster. So, the Prince. Let's see, had a false report that tricked Russia into mobilization in 1914. The violation of treaties and of all the laws of civilized warfare during the recent war were the direct outcome of doctrines that may be found in embryo in The Prince. There was a book called The Prince. And you got Robinson's Proof of a Conspiracy, and The Prince English translation by Henry Morley. I tried to find the book, The Prince. Didn't have any luck, but let's read on. So also the most striking characteristic of the French Revolution, under the inspiration of Wusthoff's emissaries. So Wusthoff was the one who created the Illuminati, which was basically an organization organizing all the Freemasonic lodges and other secret schools of Babylon, temples and lodges and secret organizations like Rosicrucian, occultic, Kabbalah. And the agents of Prussia. That would be all around the area surrounding Germany. And again, Pan-Germany was where Germany was trying to create a greater Germany by uniting all the surrounding countries, Austria, etc., and uniting all the different factions in Germany, Pan-Germany. And at the present revolutionary movement, inaugurated by Karl Marx, the founder, one of the founders of communism, you see how all this ties together? You cannot separate Talmud Jews from Zionist Jews, from the Illuminati, from Masonic lodges, from communism, from Kabbalah, magic, witchcraft, Hollywood, banksters. You can't separate them. They go by many different names. Just like the devil has many different names, that's called the pagan religion, many gods. And Friedrich Engels is not so much its violence as its Machiavellian cunning. These people are cunning. Remember that here in the USA, Jade Helm putting all those troops and equipment all over our country, whereas the people of the USA do not have a need to know. Neither do the politicians we elect. There's a secret government running things and have a secret plan, like Agenda 21. New Age, a one-world religion, Luciferian, Satanism, destroying Christianity, a new one-world order. Something that's been the dream of some psychopathic maniacs numerous times throughout history. Genghis Khan, Frederick the Great, Alexandra, the Caesars, and then the popes in Rome with the Crusades, and the Hitler, and so many more. But now it's these pyramidal structures, the people at the top, who appear to be tied in tightly with the Zionism Talmudic Jewish people. And like I said before, meshing them with people in power, the Talmudic Jews, Zionist Jews, Kabbalah, Hollywood banksters, with the leaders of all the countries in the world, they're feeding off each other to destroy the people and control the people and enslave the people. As George Bush once said, it'd be a lot easier if I was king. I wouldn't have to get to talk to the people or consult anybody. I could just make decisions. And we saw what kind of decisions he made, like the Patriot Act and plenty of others, including involvement, knowing about 911 down there at some school in Miami, reading a book called My Pet Goat, and we got the big goat on the Hoover Dam, and the goat is the symbol for the devil. They're laughing at us right in front of us and behind our backs, and they're laughing and laughing that how stupid can the people be to not see this. Even Shiva and Kali on the Empire State Building. Shiva in front of the collider, the particle collider accelerator at Geneva in Switzerland and the border of France. What the heck is going on? The art popularly known today as camouflage, the dressing up one design under the guise of something quite different. Well, that sounds familiar, all these false flags and gun shootings, and all the goings on in the Middle East, blaming the Palestinians or Arabs, trying to say Assad was gassing his people, false. Benghazi, supplying the Arabs with weapons, and our ambassador gets killed. got to keep everything quiet, of making black appear white by glorifying the most ignoble actions, of making white appear black by holding up all honorable traditions to contempt, holding up all honorable traditions to contempt. They'll call you a hater now if you don't approve of the gay marriage reality that they are promoting, along with adultery and bisexual, pansexual, gender, pedophilia. Hey, people got rights. Reading this stuff in these books is just too much sometimes. And ridicule in a world perversion, in a word. I'm making mistakes with my words here. So it says it right here in this book on page 355. Right where my finger is here. They're promoting perversion. They're trying to destroy Christianity. Get it? Got it? 1924. Nestor Webster saw it. It was in Rabbi Marvin Anelman's book. These people were the creators of the swingers groups, the orgies. All this stuff. They're promoting perversion while they're trying to destroy Christianity. It's as simple as that. Has been reduced to a system of secret directors of world revolution, and I'm going to start calling it by its real name, world domination. That's what they're after. They're not after to set the poor people free. Telling you you're going to be better off when they start destroying the rich people. The rich people are the only safe haven the poor people have ever had. It's never been these people who caused these world revolutions. Whether it's in Paris, Ukraine, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Tunisia, Egypt, it always works out worst for the poor people. It is here that we can detect the non-proletarian character of the movement. The working man of all countries is the least Machiavellian of beings. His weakness lies in the fact that he is too inarticulate and that he does not know how to put his case even when he has a good one. Still less to make a bad one appear plausible. That sounds like the people today who are 85% that are acting like zombies. They don't get it. It was not until world revolution, domination I keep saying, was taken over by the faction described by Buchanan as the German Jew Company. The German Jew Company. And it was not the German citizens. They were industrious hard workers, following the lead by their leaders, which is what most people of a population do. They believe their leaders are telling them the truth. Their leaders have ulterior motives, mainly to increase their fortunes and keep themselves in power. And throughout history, they have used the Jews as their moneymen and henchmen and tax collectors. So again, it's this meshing. So I'm not just blaming Jews. It's the leaders at the top who call themselves royalty, using them. Just like Tex Mars said, and I pointed out in several videos, in that pamphlet he sent me, that little mailer, that most companies, CEOs are Jewish. And I said, baloney. That can't be. Even I was in denial. When I did my homework, I bought a binder. I showed it in the previous video. I looked up all the major corporations. And yeah, they were all Jewish. We all know that you can go see that for all practical purposes, all of Obama's and Bush's advisors and henchmen, leaders, were either Jewish or from the Masonic temples of one brand or another, whether it's the Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Heritage Foundation, Skull and Bones, Masonic lodges. They all come from these Masonic secret mystery schools of Babylon. It is what it is. Then it reassumed its Bacchanalian character, and gradually became a formidable organization as it is today. A few extracts from The Prince will show how closely both the Prussians and the terrorists of France and Russia have been followed by Machiavellian's manual for despots, evil men. So even back there in 1924, these people in cahoots with these Masonic lodges and higher-ups German Jew company were causing situations of terrorism. Same as today. Terrorism is not caused by people like who watch this video and me. Normal, good people. First of all, we don't have the money, the know-how, the weapons, or anything. Try to go get that stuff. The people who do have it, like in the Benghazi case, were supplied it by higher-ups for intentional purposes. Destruction, chaos, and mayhem. Make no mistakes about it. He who usurps the government of any state is to execute and put into practice, get it, ready for this? He who usurps the government of any state is to execute and put in practice all the cruelties which he thinks material at once, that he may have no occasion to renew them often, etc. That's why they want to disarm the people in the USA. They don't want to have to do it twice. And when they do it, they have to, all the cruelties which he thinks material, they need to scare the dickens out of all the people in the United States. An ultimate fear. So everybody will get on those trains and buses to the FEMA camps and to their deaths. Once you go in, and if you notice, those FEMA camps don't have facilities for long-term living. Just the opposite. It appears they have the facilities for burning or burying a lot of bodies. One might think these people are following some kind of guidebook, like the Protocols of Zion and the other books we've gone over, the Jewish Utopia, the Ultimate World Order, all that stuff we've been talking about. These people, when they pull the trigger, practice all the cruelties which he thinks material at once, that he may have no occasion to renew them often. Vide the German principle of frightfulness to be exercised against the inhabitants of invading territory, and the plan of the French and Russian terrorists in supporting counter-revolutionaries. They don't want a counter-revolution here in the United States when they do their revolution, i.e. world domination, false flag. Maybe an asteroid's going to hit the planet. Maybe Yellowstone can be forced to blow. Something, Ebola, a plague. A nuclear explosion they do in one of our harbors. Shut down the country, all trucks and shipping. An invasion, they say, by Russians or Chinese. Who knows? Crashing the dollar. They've got plenty of options. An alien invasion, Project Bluebeam, holograms in the sky, thinking it's God or Muhammad or Buddha. Seems like they're just stacking the deck and giving themselves options. Is it of such importance to a prince to take upon him the nature and disposition of a beast? So they call these leaders that run our world princes. And they say, is it necessary for him to take upon his nature the disposition of a beast? Of all the whole flock, he ought to imitate the lion and fox. So to all we people here in the United States, these people have to act like the beast, like a lion and a fox. Via Frederick the Great and the demigods of France and Russia. A prince who is wise and prudent cannot and ought not to keep his parole, when the keeping of it is to his prejudice, and the causes for which he promotes removed. Vide German's doctrine of the scrap of paper, and the promises of the Bolshevik trade delegation in London to refrain from propaganda. So they say they're not going to use propaganda, but we know they use propaganda. Lies, the stuff on the nightly news. Even as I've been saying, go look up the videos on this. Whether it's NFL football or the nightly news, they got this thing that turns and with numbers inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Texas Rangers, they got that star they keep zooming in up on, and now they have an I and an S in the star, with a round circle, which seems to be a witch's symbol. But they're using this from analog to digital TV, apparently had a higher purpose, a sinister purpose. It was a better tool for mind control and mesmerization and trances. Make no mistake, they've gone high-tech. The devil has gone high-tech. But if we learn where a lot of these people that are into the occult and meditation and communicating with beings on the other side, that's where they get their information. Masters, spirit guides. A lot of people have heard of this. Where are they getting this information? What are these demonic beings? Angelic beings. Helping them to build nuclear bombs, I guess, would not be an angelic being. Nikola Tesla talked about this, and they would drag him off the stage and shut him up. Because the whole multitude which submits to your government is not capable of being armed, if you be beneficial and obliging to those you do arm, you may make the bolder with the rest for the difference of your behavior. To the soldier binds him more firmly to your service. Vid. The insolent behavior permitted to officers of the German Imperial Army and feeding the Red Army in Russia at the expense of the rest of the population. So what do you want to bet that when they pull off this thing, let's say in the United States, with some kind of an excuse, and whatever food supplies there are, who's going to get them? All those military guards and police and foreign officers and the higher-ups, the elites and their big mansions and posts and all that, who's going to get the food and the water? Or the citizens? The citizens, like in Russia and all the other revolutions, are going to be left to starve. The prince is obliged, these people that are the evil leaders, at convenient times of year to entertain the people by fastings, and plays and spectaculars of recreation, and give them some instance of his humanity and magnificence. So that's what the leaders have to do. Caesar did that. He beguiled everybody and diverted their attention to the games while Rome was falling, crumbling away. That's what they do. They're doing it now. They call it TV and movies and the spectacular false flags they throw up on the news whenever the public starts to pay too attention to something serious. They create one of those events. Just like when they had that college shooting recently out west in Oregon. They had two things big going on. One, they were signing the Pacific Trade Agreement at the exact same time, which was a big problem. And two, in the press releases out there in Europe, there were some press releases detailing the horrific atrocities and murders of children and people in Syria. But meanwhile, while all that's in the news, all of a sudden they got the shootings in Oregon to make everybody look away, and that's all you saw on the front lines of the news, nightly news or newspapers, instead of the real news. Just after the fall of Napoleon I, a French writer published a book describing the methodic perversity of the revolutionary leaders and the revolution at the beginning of a Machiavellian regime. How did this system come to be established in France unless under the guidance of Gustav's emissaries and the agents of Frederick the Great and of the Illuminatus Frederick William II? So they were all Illuminati Freemasons of one cult or another, sect or another, lodge or another, temple or another. And who's behind all that? That would be the King Solomon's temple, rebuilding it, a goal of world domination by these Zionist Jewish folks, the banksters. 1924. Germany was well able, however, to defend herself against the devastating doctrines of Illuminism, the Illuminati. 1924. I keep saying that because you try to tell anybody about the Illuminati, and they just start laughing. They just don't believe it, even though they see those temple lodges on every corner. A silent army. People who have taken a threat of death if they divulged any of the secrets and are commanded to obey their master. Right on your main street, right on the corner street of your downtown and in your neighborhoods, all over the world. From Peru to Haiti, Puerto Rico, you name it, India, Iraq, Iran, Russia. There's no place they don't have these Masonic mystery school lodges of one kind or another. Called the Brotherhood, too. A lot of people have heard that word brotherhood, the Arab Brotherhood, the English London Brotherhood. They're all into this thing. They're all called the Brotherhood. But people, when they're watching the news, they don't put it together, two and two. Germany was well able, however, to defend herself against the devastating doctrines of Illuminism. Always the home of secret societies, she became, by the end of the 19th century, the spiritual home of socialists. So the Illuminati and communists, make no mistake, created socialism and liberalism to beguile the population, to lie to the population. They made the situation hard for them, so then they could say, here, we'll give you some little bit of food and money. And if you don't come down to our propaganda factory to get it, you won't get it. So not only do you get food and money, you get mind control, deception. Yet although this might appear to present a danger to German imperialism, no country has remained so free as Germany from serious agitation. It has been well said that the Germans are theoretical, more socialist than other nations, theoretically, but they are far less revolutionary. The truth is that the rulers of Germany have always known that they could count not merely on the servility of the people, but on their ardent national spirit. A strong vein of patriotism ran through all the secret societies, even of the most subversive variety, and it was the German student orders whence the Illuminati drew their disciples. Just like I said. So you got German student orders in your schools. And from there you can pick your leaders. And you need particular leaders, people who follow the party line, people who are Christian or have any kind of conscience and goodwill and wouldn't kill and murder and rob and steal would not be qualified to get into the higher echelons of these organizations. Like I said before, that's always been a problem when they have wars. They just can't get the citizens to be vicious enough to want to go murder the other party. And the same thing with the other party. They can't get their people vicious and murderous enough to come kill you. It's been a problem for these warmongers and world domination folks for a long time. So they're trying to resolve that issue, which won't bode well for the rest of us. To create some kind of super being who's going to be like a wolf and consume us, and a desire to be vicious and cunning. Imagine if they create humans like that, and they do perfect their mind control and the zombie manufacturing of the public, the deception and the lies. Rioters in the streets, smashing store windows. Hey, They already do that. It was thus that in Germany, Freemasonry became a powerful aid to Prussian aggrandizement. From 1840 onwards, the word of command to all the lodges went out from Berlin, and in the Revolution of 1848, the Freemasons of Germany showed themselves the most ardent supporters of German unity under the aegis of Prussia. Later, Bismarck was, with superb ingenuity, enlisted not only Freemasons and members of secret societies, but socialists and Democrats to the same cause. So they'll give it many names, but deceiving people and roping them in is the end game. Okay, here we go. I'm not reading everything, as you can see. Marx contributed powerfully. That would be Karl Marx, creator of communism and involved in the Russian Revolution. Murder of millions of people. Contributed powerfully to the cause of pan-Germanism. Dammer, who succeeded Lassalle as head of the Socialist Party, instructed his successor Fichte in the meeting which took place in Saxony, the occult power preached pacifism and humanitarianism in France. So the occult power, the magicians, the witchcraft, the magic people, the Masonic lodges, preached pacifism and humanitarianism in France by means of French Freemasonry. So they used these Freemasonry lodges to preach pacifism and humanitarianism, while they were bent on destroying them. And that's what they've done to the churches here in the USA. The government has taken over them with money and told them to instruct the population when the event happens, the world domination, i.e. world so-called revolution, to tell the people all to just submit and listen to the government and obey the commands. What an easy way to destroy a culture and a people and a nation, right from the inside. So the occult power preached pacifism and humanitarianism in France by means of French Freemasonry, while it preached patriotism. Same Freemasonic lodges, get this, preached patriotism in Germany by means of German Freemasonry. So the occult power, the eye on top of the pyramid of all these Freemasonic lodges, in one country preached patriotism, while in the other one it preached pacifism. Huh. So they had plans. So although throughout the 19th century, the rulers of Germany permitted the dissemination of ideas antagonistic to religion, so they permitted dissemination of ideas antagonistic to religion, Christianity, and until by the dawn of the following century, the very idea of God was rooted out of the minds of many German children. Hey, this was in 1924 earlier, and that's what they're doing here in the USA. You think they're following the same plan? The imperial government was careful that nothing should be allowed to weaken patriotism. Indeed, the pan-German obsession into which the German patriotism became transformed under the influence of such men as Trotsky and Bernhardi was no less than revolutionary socialism, fortified by irreligion because founded on the law of force and the absence of all moral scruple. So they're destroying religious thinking in the United States, and we know they are promoting an absence of all moral scruple. The Aleister Crowley do as thou wilt philosophy is prevalent throughout our society. And if you don't believe me, go watch Ellen DeGeneres. She'll inform you. And if you won't probably pay attention, you won't even know you're being mind controlled. They're good at that. They bring on a little child who sent a nice little letter to the newspaper about his dad and his daddy's boyfriend. How cute is that? It's the kind of stuff they put on there to play with your head. It is thus not militarism, in the accepted sense, that has rendered Germany a menace to the world, but the Machiavellian plan of using export doctrine sternly repressed within our own borders. So the lodges high above here in the United States, controlling the United States, are also controlling Russia, are also controlling England, also controlling all those countries in Europe who became part of the European Union, also controlling the governments in China and Japan and all the other countries, Central, South America. They really believe they have accomplished their goal of a new world order. They think they're there. They have a few small problems to take care of. One is disarming America. And they're slowly engaging this thing called Agenda 21, Common Core, promoting the decadent sexual revolution, which is basically perversion, which they've done since 100 or 200 years, which they've always done. Ugly is beautiful, and beautiful is ugly. I shall not enlarge here on the crime of the German imperial staff in sending Lenin and his fellow Bolsheviks to Russia to bring about the Russian Revolution. But wait a minute, but didn't Germany lose the war? Who was in charge of the general staff? I think they had sent hundreds of people from New York, Jewish people, by the way, predominantly, to handle the Versailles Treaty, which issued all the payment requirements that Germany had to pay in reparations for the war, which were so huge and devastating that it was only going to destroy Germany and create greater agitation and see millions of German citizens dead. And we went over that book, Bosch and Bolshevik, I'm reading here, by Nestor H. Webster and Kurt Carlin, which appeared in the Morning Post on April 26 and 27 in 1922. That's where, see, the first country to be really treating the Jews bad was Russia. They had something called programs, P-O-G-R-A-M. And these were laws and edicts, like presidential orders, to do suppressive tactics to the Jews in Russia, because the Russians wouldn't tolerate the arrogance and the attitude of the Jews there. And the Jews were doing great, and a lot of people fleeing Russia went to Germany prior to World War I and found a homeland and were quite pleased to be there. But anyways, during the middle of World War I, the Jews turned on Germany, traitor, and made a deal with England called the Balfour Agreement, that if they gave these elite Jews people, banks, Rothschilds, etc., gave England the money, plus conspired with Woodrow Wilson to bring the USA into the war, then England would support annexing Palestine's land to give to the Rothschilds to create the State of Israel. All a plan. Believe it or not, all a plan. Just seeing how many more pages I got here. Probably going to make this up into 2 videos. But, in the meantime, reading on. If Mrs. Webster reproaches Germany for having employed seditious propaganda in the countries of the Allies, it may simply be brought to mind that all is fair in love and war. Now think about that. Agenda 21, Common Core, Jade Helm in the USA, crashing the dollar, destroying our economy, bringing in all kinds of foreigners. A friend of mine made a notice to me this weekend. She told me that here in the city I live, there is a small community of Russians, and it's growing, and 3 and 4 more families are coming soon. And I'm thinking, you know, with all the job situation and all the land they have in Russia and stuff like that, then we know about the Ukraine, So it's just a curious, what if my community is getting a small pocket, and I've heard there are many others. There's something behind the back door going on. Secret conspiracies. Bringing in these peoples. It's not going to bode well. And, think about it for a minute. This is a huge country, the United States of America. Pretty much, if we're all the custodians and owners of this country and land, we should all be doing pretty well financially. But our enemy appears to be our own government, trying to destroy our ability to make money. Part of that's called sustainability, and Agenda 21, and with the global warming scare, global cooling scare, plus the destructive nature of the sky spraying of chemicals in our sky, the HARP systems, and so much more. That they're taking, it's almost like they're stealing our United States citizens' inheritance and heritage away from us, right from under our noses. They're stealing everything, and they intend to leave us paupers. It's illegal in a lot of places to be homeless, and they're making more people homeless. In a war, in a fight concerning life and death, one does not look at the weapons which one takes, nor at the values which are destroyed by using the arms. The only advisor is, first of all, the success of the fight and the salvation of one's independence. So these people wanting this one world order don't care what they have to do, and are bent on our destruction and the destruction of Christianity. Is there any doubt? It says right here, all's fair in love and war. They are at war with us. The sky spraying in the sky, if you go outside and look up, is evident and enough. The Patriot Act, the Obama health care bill, they said you could read it after we pass it. What is that? The Pacific Trade Agreement. You can read it after we pass it. What is that? They got a lot of things going on secret behind our backs. All right, moving on. Page 358. It should be remembered that all the friends of Germany in this country, it should be remembered that all the friends of Germany in this country always declared that the German people did not want the war and were dragged into it unwittingly by the military caste. So here in the United States, it's about the same thing. But I wouldn't say it's the military caste that's, leading us into all these wars in Iraq, Middle East. They have to use lies and deception like 911. And our military has been purged by Obama. All the leaders that probably he deemed would not go along with shooting at and disarming the American people were ousted. Then, of course, we know holistic doctors are dying. Doctors investigating vaccines are dying. Doctors in the biologicals dying. Scientists dying. Banksters dying. Witnesses and other people to different kinds of details and stuff dying, murdered. It makes you wonder, is this purge, this motion moving forward in the United States? It's already underway. Jade Helm, red dots, blue dots, green dots on your mailbox, yellow dots, whatever. But is there any evidence to show that England, 1924, ever attempted to engineer a social revolution like they're doing here in the United States today and Europe to undermine morality? Page 358 here, that's what it says. And all belief in ordered government, in a word, to promote Bolshevism in Germany and elsewhere. In this country, they want to try to promote sustainability and communism and socialism, making people think it's actually going to be better for them and making it hard on them so they will want something better. These are old tactics. I think it's time the people stop being sheeple and stop being children and wake up to these facts. They do want to destroy Christianity. They hate Jesus. Sarah Silverstein, the comedian, said on stage, the Jewish comedian, if Jesus came back, she'd kill him again. And the crowd laughed. Further, throughout the war, the Tsar and the Tsarian had been ceaselessly represented as faithless to the Allies, a story that we now know to have been the infamous calumny circulated doubtless by enemy agents. So they wanted to say the people in Russia were faithless, no religion and all that, which was wrong, a lie. They use lies. One must have lived through the spring of 1917 in London to realize how completely not only the public but the authorities were deluded. It's like they're deluding everybody now as to what's really going on in Syria and all the other plans for the Middle East. And what's going on in the United States and the attempted destruction of Christianity, banning Christmas, but giving us all these evil celebrations and menorahs, those Jewish 7 candlesticks during the holidays planted everywhere, but not Christmas trees or stars or Jesus or Bethlehem. They are destroying one and promoting any other. We might want to pay attention to what is the other, what is the basis of those religions, and if it's Luciferian, which the New Age appears to be, that's demonic and satanic. Is that what we want? It's not what I want. Then one gay guy carrying the poster I showed in previous videos. You can look up gay celebration images and probably find it. He says, a big colorful poster. I bet hell is fabulous. That's what he said. It says here on page 359, I know from personal experience that 2 of the most important government departments were completely mistaken even on the subject of Bolshevism, with the result that measures were not taken that might have checked its spread into this country. So they brought all those Bolshevik Jewish people speaking Yiddish that Henry Ford's books talk about that we went over. Arrogant people singing insulting songs in our theaters in the Yiddish language, which most of the USA citizens couldn't understand, and know that they were being insulted and ridiculed. They had set up barracks all over Europe to indoctrinate all these Russian, Yiddish people, and surrounding area, Jewish people, Yiddish Jewish, to bring into the United States immigration back then in 1917, 18, 19, 20. And they weren't allowing any other races or countries to basically immigrate here, but they were shipping them in force, these Yiddish Jewish people, into the United States. And they were also shipping many of these people over to Palestine. This was prior to the creation of the State of Israel, which was promised to them during World War I with the Balfour Agreement, but the League of Nations apparently didn't have the attitude to bring it about and betray the Arabs. But after World War II, with the United Nations, they managed to control them and put the right people in charge, their second attempt to create a world order. And then they did manage to get the Palestinians' land annexed and ship over, there were 70,000 Jewish people in that country then, when they created it, 70,000. And hundreds of thousands of Arabs and 100,000 Christians. And ever since then, they've been shipping in Jewish people into Israel, now called Israel, was Palestine. And now they're up to 7 or 8 million, I don't know. But they continue to destroy Palestinian neighborhoods and kill them. And we see in the news recently, these Arabs are fleeing to all the European countries and they're bringing them into the United States. This whole plan is causing chaos and destruction so that Israel and these Jewish people can create their own country And if what they've done with the dot on the map is any indication of what they will do with a country the size of the USA, we are in trouble. The world. We've read the Jewish Utopia. We've read those other books I've gone over. Is there any doubt? We've read that they've been dispersed and run out of places for 2,000 years. And before Jesus was born, they were having trouble 1,000 years before that all the time. Remember, they were enslaved in Egypt. Why did the Pharaoh enslave them? Did he enslave everybody else everywhere? No. All right, always faithful to the maximum, divide and impera. So I suppose that's divide and conquer. So moving on again, at the same time, no less than 3 lines of propaganda concerning the causes of the war were going out from Germany. One laying all the blame on the English, one on the French, and one on the Jews. And pamphlets embodying these conflicting theories were dispatched, broadcast to likely subjects in the countries of the Allies. A little more from this book. Although there was no country in the world where monarchy was so adored, militarism so universally admired, where rank and birth played so important a part, and the working class, through cared for, so rigidly kept in subjection, Germany, from the time of Bismarck onwards, has always been the spiritual home of British socialist democrats, pacifists, just as in France she has always found her principal allies in the Masonic lodges. And this, although the German socialists and Freemasons have never attempted to use their influence in favor of the Masonic and socialist idea of universal brotherhood and world peace, but on the contrary, at every crisis, have thrown in their lot with the military party. Thus, before the Franco-Prussian War, whilst French Freemasons of the Lodge Concordia and the socialists of the First International were urging their brothers to rely on German socialism to avert a conflict, the Prussian lodges were shouting "Hoch" to the national colors and chanting the praises of King William and the Prussian sword, and the German Social Democrats were applauding the cause of the German unity. Exactly the same thing happened before the recent war, when Jaurès assured his fellow socialists that at the first sign of conflict, he had only to communicate with Berlin in order to enlist German socialists in the interest of peace. So, yet, on the declaration of war, the German socialists voted solidly for war credits, whilst the British socialists opposed participating in the war, even in some instances expressed sympathy with Germany. So we know they want a new world order. We know there's weird things going on in the United States. These are facts. We know that they are and have been destroying Christianity. We know that they are promoting decadent sexual attitudes and making these people privileged citizens, agitating Christians, trying to bring up revolution here in the United States. We know all this. We know that they have all kinds of fear-mongering going on. So the question is, are they at work in the United States to bring it down? And the answer is, in my opinion, and many others, absolutely yes. And one of those tools, as we've been going over in this book, the wrenching transformation of America. It says it all, Agenda 21. And we've gone over in the previous Secret Societies video, they use propaganda like this picture. If you had to choose for where you wanted to live, how you wanted to drive down the street, which would you choose? Would you choose this one or this one? Obviously, you would choose the nice one with the pretty woods, not the smokestacks. So then they put captions up there so that they can fool you. One is progress and one is economic growth. Sustainability, progress, beautiful. Economic growth, smokestacks. they want you to put those two and two together, to make a choice in your mind. They're programming all of us. So I thought I would continue this book and tell you, but with Agenda 21, they're giving millions, lots of money to all the little city councils and cities, towns and police departments, and to get them to go along with this Agenda 21, convincing everybody that there is a sustainability problem in a vast country with the United States, where 90% of the land is off limits to people with state parks and everything else, owned by huge corporations who are using Monsanto genetically modified seeds to even make food that's poisonous and toxic to us, dangerous to us, causing tumors and cancers in rats and everything. You know they want to destroy the Christian people and enslave them, the goyim they call them. So is there a program at work? I believe there is, and it's Agenda 21. And they're using money and bribery in all your city councils throughout the United States to make it happen. So I thought I'd read some from this book. And so here we are, more than 20 years after Agenda 21 came on the scene at the United Nations. Remember, they control this one. They couldn't control the League of Nations after World War I, so they broke it up and they recreated the United Nations after World War II. And apparently they have all their culprits, puppets in charge, in place, to do their bidding, even to symbolize them in the meditation room. No mistaking this. They're behind the gay agenda. They're behind sustainability. They're behind global warming. Even the Pope, who came to America recently, said that global warming was an emergency. They're all in on this new world order, and they're using these sustainability, global warming, terrorism, and all these other things, crashing the dollar, the debt, 18 trillion the United States, they say, owns, but was never spent on us. There was a world empire building, a new world order. And we paid for it, and they want us to say that we owe the money for it, and it's meant to enslave us, so we owe money, 18 trillion, that has, for a program that's meant to enslave us. How ridiculous is that? So 20 years ago at the Earth's Summit in Rio de Janeiro, so they've been underway with this program for quite a while. We're witnessing an unbelievable transformation of human society that is leading to shortages, sacrifices, higher prices for goods and services, and massive government intrusion in our lives. How has it been accomplished? So I read all this, as you can see, and I highlighted a lot of it. One step at a time. And you can go on American Policy Center and buy this book. I'm sure that Tom DeWeese will put you on his mailing list like he does me. And contributions, $25 or whatever you can send, will probably help them in all of their work fighting to expose this Agenda 21. I want to give credit where credit is due here. In 1993, in order to bring the United States into compliance with the comprehensive blueprint for the reconstruction of human development called Agenda 21. President Bill Clinton created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. 1993. They've been at this. With great fanfare, the Council issued a comprehensive report containing all the guidelines on how our government was to be reinvented under sustainable development. Those guidelines were created to direct policy for every single federal agency, state government, local community government. However, the policies were written using indirect language that seems to dance around its true intentions. While it sounds reasonable and non-threatening on the surface, one gets the feeling that something important is missing. The concept seems difficult to grasp, thus making it difficult to argue unless one understands the full agenda. For example, here is the definition of sustainable community from the 1996 report of the President's Council on Sustainable Development. Sustainable communities encourage people to work together to create healthy communities where natural resources and historic resources are preserved, jobs are available, sprawl is contained, neighborhoods are secure, education is lifelong, transportation and health care are accessible, and all citizens have opportunities to improve the quality of their lives. I can see a couple things wrong with that right out of the gate. Aren't they trying to privatize everything? The government is selling off everything. Sewer plants, water plants, bridges. Wow, got a turkey behind me. Where is he? There he is. Guess I can't see him. So I'm doing my video, and there's Mr. Turkey scratching away. Startled me. Usually comes running when I throw him a piece of bread. Well, before I was rudely interrupted by the turkey. It's actually two of them there, a male and a female. 20 years running this program called Agenda 21. Is there anybody that would even question me saying that most of the things the government does, they screw up? They make a mess of. They don't do very well. Politicians. So to try to organize a one world order where everything is interconnected, and if they ever have to shut a piece of it down, it all shuts down, which is insane. And they're also the fact that they're trying to sell off prisons and everything to private management, it shows us they can't do it. So we can assume that Agenda 21 is all about private management. Hence, the New World Order dictates and laws coming from the United Nations, which is controlled by these Zionist, Talmudic Jewish folks and the Masonic temple lodges and all the elites ruling the world for their benefit. So they want to enslave the citizens. So just like throwing a frog in a boiling hot water, a pot, he will jump out. But if you place the frog in nice warm water, cool water, and slowly turn it up to get hot, he'll never jump out. And that's what Agenda 21 is. 20 years they've been going at it. And they've been inching their way with all these school shootings, church shootings, Boston Marathon, movie theater incidences, and doing the propaganda to convince everybody we need to be disarmed. It's part of Agenda 21. And then even that propaganda piece where the two ladies were laying in the bed with two little children playing on the bed as a family, and the headline was, gay couples spend more time with their children. How many zombified people out there in the socialistic society bought that and believed that? It's all mind control. Just like I keep saying with the nightly news and the TV programming and the NFL and American Idol, and you can see the symbolism. They come in on you and then they come out on you. That's mesmerization. Watch the telly and see if you can see it. And movies. It's all high tech. That's why they went from analog to digital TV. So moving on American Policy Center, the wrenching transformation of America, Agenda 21. We just saw in Nestor Webster's book, saw, the propaganda and the evil goings-on for the past 100 years, but prior to 1924. And we now, if anybody's been paying attention to today, current events and history as we grew up, all this stuff has been happening. The wars are endless. The incidences, the false flags are endless. The programming and the chaos and the discomfort to citizens is endless. Notice the language used, carefully selected to sound positive, to paint images of sustainability, stability, and normalcy. Jobs, education, history, health, opportunity. All the things needed for a stable, happy community. Nothing to argue, nothing to fear. To fully understand the meaning of this definition, one must break down the language and ask key questions. Most importantly, one must ask, how do you intend to achieve these goals? To translate the above definition of a sustainable community, in order to understand its true meaning and its consequences to America's everyday community life, will take this entire report. That's my mission, and it's no easy task. Just like me, up to 71 series in Freemasonry and Satanism, I've been trying to uncover what the heck is going on in the world. And we can all agree it's no easy task. You have to look at the big picture, the UFO issue. World War I, World War II, who financed Hitler? John Perkins, the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, going around the world at the behest of these people, convincing leaders to borrow money they couldn't pay back, so then they go into foreclosure. Psychic research, the destruction of Christianity, the Freemasonic lodges, all the things I've been going over in the wide diversity of topics was to try to show that everything is interconnected. It's all part of one huge program. Remember, and I'm not trying to be anti-Jewish here, but the presses and the book publishing companies and movies and the media and the newspapers were owned predominantly, intentionally, by these Jewish people who hate Christianity. And, it was them that told Pontius Pilate, the Roman leader, to crucify Jesus. So they killed the Son of God. So they obviously want to destroy Christian religion as we know it today, 1/3 of the world, because you don't want to be the person that was said to have killed God. So what they have to do is make Jesus to be a fake and to have deserved killing. That's why they destroyed Christmas. Just like they're trying to destroy normalcy in social communities in America. They hate goyim, we people they call cattle. They think we don't have souls and we have lower IQ, while they put fluoride in the water and toothpaste and in the air with the sky spraying aluminum, barium, and strontium, which lowers the IQ and makes people lethargic. So I guess if you drug somebody, you can truthfully say they're drugged. Let's begin by taking these glaring ideas one at a time. All right. Sustainable communities encourage people to work together. They certainly are members of our society who take the whole sustainability, there certainly are members, sustainability agenda to heart and love to get involved in improving their community. They clean out riverbanks, collect trash along the roadways, recycle, watch their thermostats, ride their bikes whenever possible. Good for them. That is their decision, and they are free to make it. And I could say, generally speaking, that's what these evil, Talmudic, Zionist, Jewish folks and the leaders of industry depend on, is us just being nice little obedient slaves. But there are others who have a different vision on how they want to live. Perhaps they don't agree with the dire predictions on environmental Armageddon. How do they fit in this agenda for the 21st century? Well, I don't believe in this environmental Armageddon. And for one obvious reason, all you got to do is look up and see that they're dumping toxic chemicals in the sky. Go look up chemtrails or sky spraying on the internet. I've got hundreds of videos of daily videoing and photographing of the sky spraying, and narrations, the video that I show, since 2005 when I learned about it. So they are changing the pH of the soil, they're killing the bees, they got the HARP transmitters. So they're destroying the environment, and they're blaming us and saying a required program of sustainability, Agenda 21, is required, coming out of the United Nations, along with its sister agenda of the gay promotion, decadent sexual attitude of the world, which is all satanic, anti-Ten Commandments. Okay, so what happens to people who don't believe in this? We know, like the doctors who are researching vaccines and the doctors into holistic healing, look it up on the internet. A lot of them have been mysteriously dying, along with the military leaders being purged from the military. A lot of banksters 2 or 3 months ago were dying in mass all over the country. Morgan Chase and all these people working high places at the banks were mysteriously all dying. Why? Anyway, so what happens to the people who don't buy this sustainability, global warming deception? They're dealt with. Their children in the public schools are pummeled with the political correctness of being proper environmental stewards. Meanwhile, the Zionist Jewish folks in Israel are bombing the smithereens out of the Palestinian neighborhoods and killing them. Just saying. And they're promoting patriotism and nationalism for Israel, but globalism and sustainability to the rest of the world. You'd have to be a knucklehead not to see that they're moving ahead with their world domination plan by using mental tactics versus the sword. But they do use the sword by all these people that are mysteriously dying. Even astronomers. They got these incoming comments and Planet X and Destroyer. Why were a bunch of astronomers mysteriously dying? Guilt plays a huge part in that indoctrination. It is necessary for future generations who will be prepared to work together in their communities. In addition, in many schools now, the children are required to fulfill a certain number of hours of community service in order to qualify for their diploma. In a sustainable world, proper attitude is at least as important as scholarship. Today's curriculum to ensure proper citizenship is called Common Core. It is the curriculum of Agenda 21 and is intended to be lifelong. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, they want to disarm Americans. And with all this stuff they're doing in our world, fear-mongering in the news and all the other legislation, businesses are having an even tougher time to pay their bills. So people are becoming broker and broker. It's all intentional. Just like the European Union, all those countries were duped into becoming a European Union. In the United States, all of our city councils and downtown city halls and county organizations, police departments, sheriff's departments, school departments and all that are be giving huge grants conditioned that they do certain things. They're taking over our country behind our backs. Cooperation from adult citizens is just as structured. In the past, public meetings to discuss new policies were based on the guidelines called Robert's Rule of Order. Though everyone got a fair chance to have their say, and then took a vote on the matter. That's how things used to be. Today we have facilitators, trained in psychology, to ensure they lead a gathering in exactly the direction needed for the predetermined and desired outcome. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I was in Bangor, Maine, and they were having a discussion at the local college on global warming. And I had just purchased or received a Nexus magazine with those charts from the core samples done in the ice. Look up ice core samples images, and you will see they have these charts: hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Very systematic throughout the last 4,000 years. So the planet does get hot and cold, hot and cold. So everything was normal, what's going on in the world today. And as soon as I showed the guy the magazine and raised my hand, he whispered to his associate and said that and then he made an announcement that the college needed the room for another meeting and that the meeting was canceled. So he was a facilitator with a predetermined and desired outcome, and I had upset that with the Nexus magazine article and pictures. They didn't even want to discuss it. Shut it down. If the facilitator is really good at his job, everyone in the meeting will believe the outcome was his or her own. Those in charge hailed the meeting as a huge success in which everyone in the community worked together to set these plans in place. Lest we forget Professor Higgins' book, the Jewish Utopia, and all those other books, what they think about us and what they plan to do to us, and that they control the United Nations, and this is what they're producing, that they use propaganda and deception and lies. I keep saying you got to be a knucklehead not to see this. To create healthy communities, this can mean many things, and I'm thinking about all the stuff going on in the world. The last thing they're doing is creating healthy communities. Go watch Texas Rangers, the episodes on TV now, and they're portraying we citizens as horrible beasts. The things that they show on that program. And all kinds of other TV programming, I'm sure. So they're not creating healthy communities with that mind-controlled TV programming. It's insane. So you can see the lies if you think. This can mean many things. Healthy. We see the growing power of the food police today, who have declared many things in our diet as unhealthy. And they've stopped people from growing gardens in their backyards. We see the mayor of New York declaring large sodas unhealthy and working to ban their sale. We see fast food establishments picketed for selling fries made from grease or hamburgers that are deemed animal cruelty by animal rights advocates. There are mandatory vaccinations without which children cannot enter schools, or parents who refuse to comply are charged with child abuse. So they want to stick something in your child, and if you think that it's bad for your child, you don't have a choice. What the heck is with that? How far will this go? Well, we're seeing that. Local governments enforce grand comprehensive plans designed to pack and stack people on top of each other in massive high-rise buildings. Is this what they mean by healthy? History would show that forcing people into massive containers reduces quality of life, spreads disease, and promotes violence. Now you know why I left a big city in Florida and I'm sitting here in North Carolina in the mountains. So those healthy high-rise, mass pack and stack communities are not healthy communities. The Russians call them gulags. Natural resources are preserved. The fear is that overconsumption will bring shortages of natural resources. You know, I hate to say this, but the mantle of the earth is hundreds of miles thick. And not to make a pun on words, but we're barely scratching the surface when we farm on the top. There's more than enough food and resources out there. That's not what they're trying to do. And Monsanto knowingly makes those modified seeds, genetically modified, which they know that causes rats to have gigantic tumors and cancers. And many countries of the world have banned them, but they so control the United States that they're forcing that food on us and refuse to ban it. That's not creating something for our benefit, or the sky spraying for our benefit, or terrorism that they create with crisis actors for our benefit, 911 for our benefit, destroying all the countries in the Middle East for our benefit, taking all of the land and resources and mining away from individuals that own land and cannot create any wealth or jobs. They don't do that for our benefit. They do it all for their benefit. We have to remember this. And they like to pit people against each other, blacks against whites, straights against gays, Americans against the Arabs, against Mexicans, men against women, young against old, rich against poor. They're really good at this. We have to watch our backs with these people in charge of our world. And so the sustainable plan is to erect endless forests with windmills. This is the natural way, we are told. Man will live on the surface of the earth doing no harm. Of course, they never seem to mention that the massive wind turbines will take more energy to build than they will generate in their lifetime. In addition, to bring the power online so it can be used by society requires a massive infrastructure of wires, cement, and roads. While one nuclear power plant located on 10 acres can supply enough energy for a massive city, wind power would require thousands of acres of clear-cut cement wastelands. Power then becomes unstable and unreliable, causing homes to grow cold or hot. This is not healthy for our communities. Moreover, there is a side effect of millions of birds being chopped up in the turbines, including endangered raptors like eagles. They call that environmentally sound. One more question comes to mind as we lock away resources for future generations. At what point would these locked away resources ever be allowed to be used by a society so afraid of itself? So it has nothing to do with protecting resources. It has to do with destroying Christianity and the world as we know it and eliminating the population through war or some kind of plague or however they're going to do it. So that the elites, leaders and princes and queens and all these monsters running things, and the Zionist Talmud Jewish people who work together in cahoots through all the Masonic lodges and other temples and Church of Satan and Rosicrucian and Kabbalah, Hollywood banksters, they benefit, they run the world because of their superior intellect. And the rest of the people are zombied. Least we mention that they are being drugged and toxified all the time. Your little boy acts up in school, is inquisitive, looks around. Attention deficit disorder. There's nothing wrong with a little boy being hyper looking around. Go buy a puppy and see how crazy a puppy is until it grows up a little bit. It doesn't have attention and deficit disorder. You don't give it drugs. Why would you give a little boy or a little girl drugs? To docify them. Make them docile. Lethargic. Drugged. And then they're going to keep them drugged or alcohol or drugged with illegal drugs or legal drugs or stuff put in their food or their water or toothpaste through their entire life. That's not healthy. One more question comes to mind as we lock away resources for future generations. At what point will these locked away resources ever be allowed to be used by society? Won't there always be a future generation that might need them? Meanwhile, scientists keep discovering that the dire predictions of resource depletion are outrageously overblown. They just discovered the hugest oil supply on the ground in the Midwest that could take care of the United States for hundreds of years. Now, who does that money belong to? Shouldn't we, the people, benefit? Or are these elitists want to benefit and enslave the rest of us so that it actually costs less to house and feed us? We're irrelevant, and they will find a way to dispose of us if given a chance. They say so. The Jewish Utopia and all those other books, Protocols of Zion, they say so. And if we look what they're doing in the rest of the world, They're doing what they say they're going to do. It says right here, page 8, it has recently been discovered that the United States has the largest oil and gas supplies in the world. Hydraulic fracturing is benign American technology that is ecologically sound and economically advantageous, but it has been deemed unsustainable by sustainabilists who quickly oppose any source of cheap energy. They do have cheap energy available, they just don't want us citizens to have it until they dispose of us citizens. The last thing they want is non-Jewish people to propagate and grow in population. Remember, they think we don't have souls. And not all Jewish people are in on this. And not all people in on this are Jewish. They come from these Luciferic lodges. Yet fracking stretches our resources several hundred years into the future. Historic resources are preserved. Then they use the land to generate massive federal grants so planners can stop development even in towns where nothing of historic significance has occurred. Gold mines, silver mines, coal mines, they're trying to shut everything down. Anything that has to do with individual people like me and the people who watch this video, from making a living, thriving, accumulating any money, having time to ponder and think like I do and read books. Then you know things and you tell other people what you have discovered, and you will be deemed an anti-government belligerent, maybe a terrorist if you don't want to give up your gun. Mentally ill if you won't accept a vaccine at the age of 50 years old. They won't tell you what's in it, but they want to stick something in you. While they have the USA Georgia Guidestones that says they want to reduce the population, they want to stick something in you that they don't want to tell you they're putting in you. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to say, wait a minute. You say you want to reduce the population and then you want to inject me with something. Jobs are available. What must magically happen in a sustainable community to suddenly create jobs that are not there now? The government does not create jobs. Creative, driven, free people create jobs to fill needs that they have discovered. No government-controlled economy would have ever created a factory that makes drink umbrellas or little pieces of plastic that go on the ends of your shoelaces. Bureaucrats don't think that way. They only think in terms of need, urgency, and bare minimum. Luxury is never part of the government plan. The fact is, sustainable development is one of the biggest killers of jobs. Its rules and regulations make it near impossible for many companies to survive. The EPA, by enforcing sustainable policies, is killing power plants, mines, farms, and even, as was recently announced, bullet factories. And Israel is the largest manufacturer of weapons now, they say, and sales. Sprawl is contained. Cities are not livable if you actually believe in fresh air and a place for the kids to play. We see what's going on in cities with their mind propaganda, cartoons, and TV programming. The people are a bunch of insane, psychopathic zombies in the cities, killing each other, shooting, and living like animals on drugs and alcohol. Not all people, of course. City living is not so healthy, in my opinion. What's healthy is what you see behind me. And there's plenty of land available all across this country. And if global warming was coming, what a godsend that would be. Much of Canada and much of Russia, half the world's dry land would be available. Could you just imagine the beautiful wonderland it would be? Half the dry land. Maybe more if you consider Antarctica and other places. Do the sustainables focus on stopping murders or by drug cartels? Well, we know the CIA and the governments are involved in the drug cartels. If they wanted to take them down, they could. But apparently, they can't even stop a school shooting. But again, then they're not really school shootings. They're crisis actors if you go on YouTube and start looking at some of the investigations. Just like 911, they arrested some Israelis in vans with bomb supplies and other Israelis on the buildings in New Jersey videoing the event And if you read Webster Tarpley's books on 911, it certainly seems to be an inside job to create all this direction to take over the Middle East and create a new world order. Like George Bush used to say, who are you going to believe if you can't even believe the words coming out of George Bush's mouth? Out of a new world order, out of chaos and anarchy will come a new world order, George Bush Sr. Someday the United States citizens will pledge allegiance to the United Nations, George Bush Sr. I quoted all this stuff in my other videos. So do the sustainabilists focus on stopping murders by drug cartels, beatings by gangs of illegal aliens? No, but they're trying to destroy Christianity and the Ten Commandments and give us a do as thou wilt Luciferic religion. And that promotes all this insanity. Do as thou wilt. You never seem to hear anything about their plans. All of these facts were actually exposed in a report by the American Planning Association, the APA, on the effects of smart growth. I saw a turkey the other day for sale frozen. It said smart turkey. It's all mind control. The report revealed that it does not work. Nevertheless, this fact was not changed. The APA's policies, because smart growth is full of government grants. This is the real game, sustainable income for non-governmental organizations. So they're going to just have to get more police forces to watch everybody, so make sure they don't make any mistake and do anything to step on the grass and despoil the environment. There will be so many rules and legislation. Makes you wonder. Doesn't make me wonder, it might make you wonder. But it's just part of this stuff. Secret societies and subversive movements for world domination. They're just using this as a tactic. Neighborhoods are secure. How is this done? Oh, I got a turkey over here behind me. Can you see it? There he is. What are you doing, turkey? I heard him ruffle his feathers. He was probably listening to me read from this, and he probably got upset. So neighborhoods are secure. How is this done? Massive police control, cameras on every corner, gun control, TSA in the subway and bus stations, NSA listening in on every conversation, computer keystroke, security over privacy and individual choice. Certainly there is no sustainable freedom in such a scheme. Transportation is accessible. This one is easy. Public transportation. Trains for long distance and bikes for a quick trip to the store. No cars. You will rarely leave the neighborhood. Imagine the hassle in taking the family on a trip to the beach, using inconvenient train schedules. Of course, people flocking to the beach is already deemed to be unsustainable, so you won't need to imagine it. Just read about it in a history book. You won't be able to go to the beach. Healthcare accessible. Well, we used to have accessible healthcare prior to Obamacare. Then the government got into the game. Perhaps you think it is unfair to mention Obamacare in a report about sustainability development. Simply Google sustainable medicine to find more than 5,850,000 references on the subject, and you will discover almost all the provisions of Obamacare. All citizens have the opportunity to improve their quality of lives. Really? What part above leads to improvement of the quality of life? We used to call it tyranny, now we call it quality of life. As George Orwell said in his landmark book, 1984, it is called doublespeak. I call it propaganda. Lies and deception. Look around you now as sustainable policy is being forced upon us. Americans' economy is in shambles and is not improving. Cost of everything, especially healthcare, food and energy, are skyrocketing. These industries are the very first to be impacted by sustainable development. How will it improve under a policy of planned shortages and locked away resources? So they planned on shortages and locked away resources. Who are they counting on to pull us out? Eventually, even the most determined producers will give up when enough roadblocks are put in the way. And so people will get disgruntled, try to find a way to survive. They won't be able to avoid breaking one crime or another. More people will be arrested. The private jails will be filled up. And these people from the Jewish utopia will be gaining their Jewish utopia plan by having the rest of us just totally destroyed. The sustainabilists are seemingly innocent-sounding descriptions to illustrate their plans for us. They deny that they do this intentionally, and anyone who calls them out is labeled a fringe nut. However, there is another way to say it, a much older description of sustainable development that explains the motivation behind the policy in a much more direct manner. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. Now you can bet that these elites in Israel, Zionist people, and other people who are at the top, will never have to worry about anything. But the rest of us, each according to his ability and each according to his need, will be living a very shabby life. Horrible. If you recognize this quote, then you fully understand the true nature of sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Now, I keep using the term sustainable development, but what is it? In short, sustainable development is the policy for the implementation of Agenda 21. You hear the term used every day, but few know what it really means. I have spent the past 20 years studying every facet of this new political agenda. 1924, they were doing it. It affects our businesses, our public education system, our personal property, and our individual lives. Interestingly, this is not a Republican or Democratic issue, nor is it a liberal or conservative. We know what it is. They've been telling us. We've been seeing it. Oh, and it's not liberal or conservative. The agenda is being implemented on a purely bipartisan basis. They're promising these elitists that they're going to continue to be in privileged positions. It is now the official policy of the United States, put in force by literally every department of the government. It is the official policy of every state government and nearly every city, town, and country in the nation. Have we heard of this before? All those books I've been going over. Most people immediately equate sustainable development with environmental policy. Concern for the environment is the reason most often given for its implementation. Land use control is at the heart of sustainable development policy. However, understanding sustainable development to be simply good environmental stewardship is a serious and dangerous mistake. We know what it is. World domination. The boiling frog approach. Do it very slowly, piecemeal. Nobody sees it coming. The term sustainable development was born in the pages of Our Common Future. The sustainable development was born in the pages of Our Common Future. The official report of the 1987 United Nations World Commission on Environmental and Development, UNCED, authored by Gro Harlem Brundtland, Vice President of the World Socialist Party. So they came up with a nice little plan in 1987 from the World Socialist Party. Since its publication, the world has never been the same. The stuff we're going over tells us who, what, and why they're destroying Christianity, and why they hate Jesus, and who's behind it. The stuff on TV, all the occultic, satanic nature of all this stuff. It's bigger than we humans. It's almost biblical. It is biblical. The term appeared in full force in 1992 in the United Nations initiative called the UN Sustainable Development Agenda 21, or as it has been known around the world, simply Agenda 21. Agenda 21 was unveiled at the 1992 United Nations Commission on Environmental and Development, UN said, ballyhooed as the Earth Summit. In fact, the Earth Summit was one of the provisions called for in Brundtland Report as a means of implementation sustainable development around the world. More than 178 nations adopted Agenda 21 as official policy. President George H.W. Bush was a signatory for the United States. Wasn't George Bush the one that said, someday the people of the United States will pledge allegiance to the United Nations? I'm here to tell you now, this and this is all one and the same thing. Secret societies and subversive movements. This is a subversive movement done by secret societies. The citizens of the United States don't vote on this, don't know about this. They're deceived and lied to about the reasons for what's going on. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.